Welcome to South Dakota Specialty Producers Podcast Series. I'm your host, Laura Kaler with SDSPA. The South Dakota Specialty Producers Association is made up of growers, consumers, and others interested in producing, marketing, and supporting South Dakota specialty crops, meats, and locally made products. For many specialty producers, having a high-quality product isn't enough to provide a connection with the market needed. SDSPA member, owner of Stewart's Aronia Acres, and Vice President of the National Aronia Growers, Jeff Stewart is with us today to teach us more about this impressive little berry and share how he has worked alongside fellow Aronia berry growers to develop a system of aggregation that helps producers with even just 1 acre to reach a broader market. Thanks for being here with us today, Jeff. To start off, can you tell us about how you got introduced to the Aronia berry?
I worked for the federal government, so we moved around a lot of different states, and our last location where we lived for 8 years was Idaho, northern Idaho. And on that property, we discovered this little plant that at first I didn't really know what it was, but they got berries on them. I did some research, discovered they were Aronia berries, and they tasted okay to us. I actually made some wine out of them. So after discovering them on our property, I did the research on them and discovered that they were, the berry was the highest antioxidant berry that there is, and they were easy to grow in Idaho. So we moved to South Dakota, and I guess that's how we first got introduced to them. We did plant a test row of them in South Dakota to see how they would do, and they did very well. They grew fast, they were hardy, and they got berries on them.
When you started off as a producer, what options did you have to sell your berries?
We didn't have a lot of options back then because nobody knew much about them, what they were, the health benefits of them. And so we did run across an association called the Midwest Aronia Berry Growers Association. And we found out about who they were. We joined, and we went to a conference, and we learned more about that there were other growers, and that at least some people knew about the berry and that they were native to the United States. But there really wasn't, to get back to your question, good markets because nobody knew what they were or much about them. So we kind of had to, the Midwest Aronia Association and all the growers, it was their responsibility to get the news out and tell people about them, how healthy they were and how they could use them and cook with them and eat them and things like that. So that's kind of not a lot of options at the beginning.
How did you use your involvement in that Midwest Aronia Berry Growers Association and lead that into the creation of the National Aronia Growers?
Well, we went to, maybe it was our second conference. They had like one conference a year. And that's really where all the Aronia growers that were members of the Midwest Aronia Berry Association, that's where they met and discussed things and had presenters. And so anyway, it was probably our second conference where we got to know some other growers, and especially another grower from South Dakota and a grower from Iowa. And we thought a lot alike. We talked about things. We met in our rooms and thought that it would be great to aggregate, because no one grower grows enough berries to attract any kind of major buyers of the berries. So that's how we first got involved. It was with other growers, and then with these two other growers especially, we each knew other growers from our local area. And so we started having meetings at one of our farms with inviting some of the other growers to get ideas and try to figure out what we could do to aggregate and get something going.
Can you break down the steps that you three initial growers took to set up your LLC of the National Aronia Growers? I assume it's a similar process that other producers could take with other commodities.
Yes, yes, it is. It's very similar. It kind of came down to the initial three growers. You really got to have an interest in some fired up growers that want to get into this. But we formed, well, backing up, we did meet with Sherry Rath with Value Added Ag. We kind of discussed things with her, our ideas, and because there's various ways to form. You can form a co-op, cooperative. There's other ways. We ended up deciding on an LLC with the three initial growers, and so we formed a company basically out of necessity, and we knew enough other growers that we attracted other growers from each of our areas, Iowa, southern South Dakota, and where I'm at by Wagner. And we kind of went from there. So I guess if you're looking at the steps, you seek help from other entities like Value Added Ag, Extension helped us a little bit, and then just our own knowledge about how to form a company, because us and the other two growers that we were teaming with kind of knew something about forming companies. So we did form a South Dakota registered LLC, and I guess we started from there.
It seems like the three initial growers still have a pretty involved role on the board of our national Aronia growers. Does everyone kind of have a delegated task that they're responsible for?
Well, they do, and we have meetings. We have, of course, annual reports we have to get together. There's tax things we have to meet about, and it's a pretty big responsibility because the way we're set up is there's a membership, and there's contracts with each of the growers, and there's responsibilities for each of the three members, or actually there's actually six because we each have wives. So we kind of learned, because there was an Aronia berry co-op where they tried to form a co-op, and it failed big time. So we learned some things from that, why it failed, how it could be done differently, and so we structured ours differently, and we can get into that. But ours is structured with a small membership fee, and anytime any berries get sold, everybody gets a check. Everybody gets a percentage, and it's based on the percentage of their inventory for that year. That's what people liked. That's one of the reasons the co-op didn't pan out, but our LLC is still going and working.
Do you have any other advice when you were comparing the co-op versus your LLC setup method? Any other advice on what you chose to do from learning from what didn't work as well in this situation?
Well, yeah, you have to, of course, when you form a company, it's good you can form a company without any attorneys or anything, but we did go the attorney route to help us. Then they help us with the taxes every year. It's a good idea to seek advice, like I said, from other entities, and kind of go from there. And getting back to what the three, there are the six members do. One of the owners of the company, of one of the three owners, is a very good marketing person or a broker, and they know how to do that. And the other two are more on doing newsletters, educating our members, doing field inspections to make sure that everybody's complying with our requirements to produce a good healthy berry and that kind of thing. So yeah, each of the 3 owners or 6 owners have different responsibilities.
I imagine that the producer starting off in a similar shoes of where you were, not being able to find a market, and then coming across your LLC to be able to market and help them sell their berries is a really beneficial thing. Are there any advantages that your group provides beyond just having a spot to sell product to?
It's kind of interesting because there's a lot of advantages to aggregate and why people should aggregate. You're not competing against your neighbors. And if you have enough product to it, you can attract bigger commercial markets that an individual farm can't reach. And then if you have an organization that's structured like ours, we assist all of our members and we share resources, and then we do education and provide technical assistance to optimize good agricultural practice production. Aggregation provides greater sales stability year after year through a larger geographical area. You can do higher volume sales of berries. And we have an aggressive marketing person that's dedicated. I mean, that's one of the owners, but that's pretty much their job. And then with our organization, we pay for storage and cold storage costs of the berries while they're being sold. Before they're sold, they have to be, the process is, people harvest and then they have to get them to one of our facilities, cold storage facilities, where they're sanitized, cleaned, destemmed, bagged and boxed and frozen. And then our marketing person sells them from there. So as I said earlier, if berries are sold every month, and a lot of times they're not, but if they were sold every month, then each grower would get a check every month. It's just based on their percentage of their inventory of berries compared to the whole inventory of berries. So the other thing with the way we set up is that, and I think that's what the co-op did wrong maybe, is they wanted 100% of everybody's production, where our National Aronia growers, it's the grower that tells us how many pounds each year that they want to commit to our inventory, National Aronia growers inventory. And it can be 20% or 100% or whatever. And so a lot of benefits. Other benefits is that, and we've done this, everybody has to, when they harvest their berries into vented totes. They're like 35, 40-pound totes. And that's how they're shipped, is right in the totes to the destemming facility. And so we got together and we ordered for our members semi-loads of totes, and we got them at a very cheap price because we bought in large quantities. So volume purchasing was a real advantage to being, a member and aggregating. We had quarterly newsletters. We had a conference every year, and we still do some, not every year, but and we have a list of custom harvesters because everybody doesn't have a harvesting machine. So we try to team up growers and people with harvesting machines and reefer trucks for transporting the berries to the cleaning and the stemming facility.
When I was looking at the photos, I saw some of the harvesting equipment, and I was curious if the growers in your group work together, just because I imagine the expense of everyone having their own harvesting equipment would add up.
Yes, yeah, the probably the one you saw, harvesting machines can cost anywhere from $35,000 to a couple $100,000. Ours is a pull behind half row the one you saw, and that's like a $35,000 machine. So we got into it not for the purpose of harvesting other people's berries, but we do harvest for one other person that's fairly close to us. But there are custom harvesters, these, $100,000 to $200,000 full row faster harvesting machines that go around, and I don't know what they charge, 20, 30 cents a pound to harvest for people, but there's custom harvesters that we try to team up with our growers to help them out.
Yeah, I can imagine that networking would be very valuable for things like that.
Yes.
But on the flip side, what expectations does NAG have of the producers? So when somebody signs up and says that they would like to be a member, what do you expect of them and their production?
Yeah. Growers are expected to grow and deliver the highest quality, safest fruit possible, and we do have some rules about herbicides and that kind of thing near the berries. We're not, some of the growers are organic and some aren't, but we don't want, especially with some of the berries, some of our buyers now, the berries are going into pharmaceuticals, so you can't have any hint of any herbicides or chemicals in the berries. So the grower is supposed to deliver a high quality berry. We have 3-year contracts, or marketing agreements, I guess we call them, because we don't actually, NAG doesn't actually own or buy the berries at any point in time. The grower still owns them. The grower is supposed to maintain proper and current field management documentation. So documentation on harvesting, storage, and transportation, so that there's trackability. So basically, there's a form where they have to fill out and put on each load when it was harvested. Basically, on each pallet, there's 40 totes on a pallet. And there's a lot of other rules about the berries. When they're harvested, they have to be cooled down to 40 degrees within 4 hours of harvesting, and things like that. They have to follow, say, food handling guides that we've provided. Like I said, the cool down, and you don't set your totes on the ground. And basically, it's GAP, good agricultural practice, kind of rules and regulations there. Growers have to sign a marketing or a service agreement and pay the annual marketing fee. And that's based on the number of plants that they have. And it's a fairly small fee for that, but it's an annual fee to be a member, and, so they can bring their berries to our cleaning and stemming facility. They have to allow their fields to be inspected by a representative of National Aronia Growers. It's usually one of the 3 owners. And then when their berries are brought to the cleaning and stemming facility, they're inspected again. We have had to reject loads of berries because there's too much trash in them, or the berries are red. In other words, they weren't fully ripe. Things like that. And then we have in our service agreement confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement as part of that. So
Sounds like you put a lot of thought into your agreement.
Yeah, you have to. You have to protect the other growers. You have to protect the company, and I guess our annual enrollment fee kind of goes from $1,000 to $1,500 plants, it's $350 a year. If you have 1,501 bushes or plants up to 4,000 plants, it's $650 a year. And then it kind of goes up to 6,000 or more bushes. It's $1,250 a year. So that's kind of our membership fee structure.
And then
But-
with the agreement that you have for your producers, what topics does that include or cover?
Well, as I said, it covers the things that the grower has to provide and do, which I kind of went through, but there are some other things, like we do have a per pound loyalty bonus, where if a grower brings the same amount or more pounds the second year, then they get a little a bonus for that, for doing that, extra money for their berries. We don't buy National Aronia growers, basically a brokerage firm, but we don't purchase berries from National Aronia growers. So we only buy from our members. But it's pretty much kind of what I went through.
How do you handle issues of differing qualities of products? I imagine, like most fruits and vegetables, there's different levels of quality with the berries.
Yes, good question, Laura. We did have to go to an A grade and a B grade berry, and basically because we were getting smaller berries, not shriveled ones, because we don't take shriveled, we don't take red berries, and loads have been rejected because of that. But if they're all ripe, but some are really nice and big and juicy, and some aren't. And what we did was we compared the size of the berries, and we did various juicing techniques. In other words, you juice so many pounds of grade A berries and so many pounds of smaller grade B berries, and to see what the difference was in yield on juice. And because there was a decent difference in yield, then we did go to the A grade, and then that they get a few more, I forget what it is, cents a pound for A grade, and a few less cents per pound for B grade berries. And it all comes down to size. And we determine that during inspection. So usually, since rows differ and for soil fertility differs, and like, even though we fertilize pretty well, we take pretty good care of our berries, but we'll have some A grade berries. We'll have some B grade berries, because some of our soil isn't as fertile. There's low spots, and so most growers have A and B grade berries. But we didn't want to short the really good growers that have mostly A grade berries by giving them the same as somebody that has mostly B grade berries. So
That's great that you noticed that and came up with a system for it. So my experience with Aronia berries is pretty minimal. I tried some at our farmer's market once and then bought a bag for some muffins, but that's about it. So can you explain for someone like myself, what is the overall process for growing and harvesting Aronia berries? What does that look like?
Sure. They're a very hardy bush to grow. They grow in a wide variety, a wide range of conditions. So they're fairly easy to grow. But when we started out, I knew a lot about this because my degree's in forestry, and but we planted our Aronia berries in rows, our bushes. They were 1 or 2 year old stock. Some we got from the conservation district and some we got elsewhere, but we used fabric. It's 6 feet wide. It's 20-year fabric. And so we did very good site preparation. It was in alfalfa prior to our planting. And so we planted, we had the conservation district, we hired them to come in and put fabric down right over the top of the seedlings that were already planted. You can put fabric down first and then burn holes in the fabric and plant in the holes. But and when we planted back in 2010, the recommendation back then is to plant them 6 feet apart in the row. And that's what we did. Now the recommendation is planting them 3 foot apart. So you're basically, you can double produce from what we have and what we did. But you basically, the second year we had a lot of flowers, and this was back in 2012. Everything was white out there with Aronia flowers. Well, we had a late frost. That's the only time we've ever had a late frost. And then we had a drought. People remember 2012. So it was a late frost and a drought, but maybe that actually helped us because they were only 2 years old. So in the third year, we actually got a pretty decent crop. Things were normal, decent rain. And so we did harvest. In 2013, we actually bought our harvesting machine in 2012. So we used our machine harvested. And from then on, it's basically, you do sometimes get elm or mulberry or a tree stem coming up in the hole. Remember now, these are in fabric, 6 foot wide with the bush planted in the middle, down the middle of the row. But not too often. So you need to walk the rows, cut out any trees that are coming in where the Aronia bush is. And then it's a matter of mowing in between the rows to keep the competition down, the grass and the weeds and whatever. We actually planted grass in between our rows. So there's basically little to no in-row weeding, and the between row care is mowing, and that's about it. You watch them grow, and then come harvest time, if you have a machine, you're ready to harvest.
And in South Dakota, what size range are most Aronia fields?
People are going bigger and bigger all the time. We have like 10 acres of Aronia berries because we also grow, we've got like an acre of black currants and an acre of honeyberries or haskaps. But anywhere from, I don't know, 500 bushes up to, like, we have 6,000 bushes. But, you know, as far as our company, you can have just about any amount, but it gets to where it's not profitable if you only grow a very small quantity, because you have to follow our rules, do the membership fee, harvest them correctly, take them to our cleaning and the stemming facility, things like that. So with small quantities, we recommend try to develop markets locally. Go to your farmers markets with your berries and maybe your Hy-Vees and grocery stores. You can join National Aronia Growers, but most of the growers are going to be up in the thousands of bushes. Like us, we got 6,000, but we were one of the larger growers way back. Now we're one of the smaller, I would say. There's one small, there's 3, 4, 5 acre growers too, but there's also some 40, 60 acres too.
So regardless of the size that they have coming in, once the berries are harvested and delivered to NAG, what happens to them from there? You kind of hinted at some of the steps, but could you kind of outline that?
Sure. I guess there's good communication between our company and the grower so that we can arrange the best day and time when for you to deliver your berries. And usually, it starts, we're multi-state, so it'll start where Iowa and even further south, they'll start bringing loads of berries to our cleaning and stemming facility earlier. And then as we get up into North Dakota, there's ripen later and they harvest later. So it works out pretty well, but basically you contact us and we work out a delivery date, and then you deliver the berries to our cleaning in the stemming facility, where it's basically a semi unloading dock. And so there's forklifts that go in the semis, unload the berries that are on pallets, usually like 40 totes per pallet. They're brought into the cleaning and stemming facility. And all the time that berries are being delivered, there's also cleaning and stemming line where berries are being cleaned and destemmed. So they're basically disinfected, they're destemmed, and basically they go on a conveyor belt. They end up going into plastic bags that are inside boxes, and the boxes are sealed, and then they're put back. The boxes are put on pallets, and then they're quick frozen in the cold storage facility that's right there. I mean, it's all cold storage facility. So, and then pallets are stacked one on top of another, and or not pallets, but loads of pallets, boxes, pallets with boxes go on pallets with boxes. So does that explain it?
Yep.
Pretty much.
And perhaps the most exciting question, what products can somebody find an Aronia berry in?
I would say most of the buyers want the berries for juice. Most of the berries go into juicing. So the berries are sold frozen. You actually get more juice out of thawed out frozen berries than out of fresh berries. And so our frozen berries are sold, and then whoever buys them mostly turns them into juice. And then they put the juice, they either blend it or into other juices, or sell it as pure Aronia juice or Aronia apple or other juices. There is a company now that's making Aronia gummies. So, and then we've had interest in pharmaceutical companies. They're starting to buy some and put them in pills and stuff like that because they have the more antioxidant than any other cultivated berry in the world. So they're a lot of health benefits. And
well, next time I'm at a grocery store, I'll have to do a little bit more careful looking and see where I can find Aronia berries.
There's some companies that direct market, have a direct marketing thing going with Aronia berries, various Aronia berry products, juice, powder, where you can just sprinkle it on things.
So if an Aronia berry producer is interested in selling with NAG, what do they need to do to become a member and get started?
Well, they could contact one of the owners, myself, Charlie Caldwell, or Tony Heisterkamp. We do have a website. We have a website, Stewart's Aronia Acres, and then National Aronia Growers has a website also.
And that, I believe, is just nationalaroniagrowers.com, correct?
Yes. And you can get contact information there. And I think, I'm trying to remember what our website is. It's just aroniaacres.com. That's right.
Wonderful. And it looks like you have contact information on that website as well. If someone wants to reach out, are they welcome to contact you with questions?
Certainly. Yep. We get contacted quite often. We've had 2 or 3 tours of our farm, showcasing the Aronia berry and our harvesting machine and, that kind of thing. So it's been a few years, so we'll probably have another on the ground tour
Wonderful.
sponsored by South Dakota Specialty Producers Association in the future.
So listeners will have to watch our calendar and website for that.
Yes. Yep.
That'd be fun to see. So in my final question for you today, what advice would you give to producers looking for options for aggregation?
Well, I think it's the way to go in South Dakota because of the distances between growers of just about anything: apple orchard, strawberries, raspberries. People growing a lot of different products out there. They're kind of spread thin, and if you can join an organization that aggregates, and it's a good, fair organization that does it properly, and it's a good way to go. It's something to look into for sure. If there's no aggregation organization out there for the crop you're growing, then you could certainly look at starting to aggregate. There's actually grant assistance potentially. There's people that'll help you, like South Dakota Extension. There's value-added agriculture out of Pierre. They were a help to us early on, and they can actually help write grants to get possibly startup grants. But South Dakota's kind of hurting with the processing facilities for a lot of crops that aren't corn or soybeans or that kind of thing. So it helps to aggregate. It's not a good thing to be competing with other smaller growers. And the big thing about aggregating is that if you can get a sizable saleable product, you can attract the bigger buyers. And so I guess I've been a proponent of maybe South Dakota Department of Ag and others are always looking at ways to help diversify and help specialty crop producers. And it would be a good thing if maybe some of our institutions and prisons and stuff would have some rules where they would buy locally grown things instead of from the huge companies. Yeah, they can get it cheaper maybe, but maybe not. And maybe we can help South Dakota diversify some more and get more different crops growing here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jeff, so much for your time. I learned a lot about Aronia berries, and I myself, and I'm sure our listeners, appreciated learning about the aggregation system that you've set up, and hopefully some of our listeners might be working on setting it up for themselves in the commodity that they produce.
Yeah, and if there's individuals that want to call me direct or, after listening to the podcast, I'm glad to answer questions on pitfalls and how we aggregated and that kind of thing, because I really see that as the way of the future for your non-commodity crops being grown in South Dakota. We got to team up and not compete with each other. So
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you and Jolene's willingness to help other producers as well.
Well, you're very welcome, Laura.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association podcast. We will be bringing you more episodes on aggregation for specialty crops, so don't forget to hit subscribe. And until next time, keep growing.